His fancy leather shoe hit Sophia's hip bone before her champagne glass even touched the floor. The sound cracked through the midnight Christmas party like a gunshot, louder than the orchestra playing in the corner, louder than all the whispers from New York's richest people, louder than her own gasp as she went down hard on the cold marble floor. Crystal ornaments from the giant Christmas tree shattered around her like tiny frozen tears. Her gold silk dress tore as she crashed into the display stand. Her elbows split open on the sharp metal edge. For 3 whole seconds, every single person in that ballroom stopped breathing. Sophia looked up from the shiny floor, blood slowly running warm down her arm, and stared at the man standing over her. Marcus Cole, her ex, the man who stole her designs, her savings, her whole future 5 years ago. The man who left her pregnant and homeless in the coldest New York winter anyone had seen in 30 years. "Watch where you're going, you clumsy nobody." Marcus snapped, straightening his cuff links like he had just swatted a fly, not kicked a woman to the ground. His eyes swept over her with pure contempt, zero recognition. He had no idea who she was anymore. No idea that the desperate woman who had begged him not to leave, who had cried alone in that freezing shelter with $17 and a baby dying inside her, was completely gone. No idea about the 20-carat diamond hidden under her glove. No idea about the penthouse she had left that evening. No idea about the offshore accounts carrying her name. No idea about the architectural empire she had built from rage and pain. And Marcus Cole definitely had no idea about the man whose last name was now legally hers. The man whose security team was closing in right now from every corner of that ballroom. The man whose phone was buzzing inside her beaded clutch at this very moment. Dante Leone, her husband. The most dangerous man in New York. Sophia's trembling fingers found her phone. She accepted the call. Dante's voice came through, calm and smooth, like aged whiskey with something sharp hiding underneath it. "My love, are you hurt?" She watched the first tiny flicker of fear cross Marcus's face as he noticed that the men in black suits were not hotel security. As he noticed they were all staring at her, waiting. "Dante," she whispered, "who touched you?" Marcus had just kicked the wrong woman. And in about 8 seconds, when Dante Leone stepped out of the shadows to answer in person, Marcus Cole was going to learn that some mistakes cannot be undone. No matter how much money you have or how loud you scream, but he did not know that yet. Right now, standing in this shining Christmas ballroom, he still thought she was nothing. That was about to change. Before we watch Marcus's whole world burn down around him, let me tell you something important first. This is a story about a woman who lost absolutely everything, her career, her child, her reason to keep going, and then clawed her way back from the bottom wearing diamonds and fury. This is also a Christmas story. So, before we go any further into this wild ride of love and revenge and starting over, I want to wish you a warm and magical holiday season. May your days be filled with the kind of love that protects you, the kind of strength that rebuilds you, and the kind of justice that finally makes things right. Now let's rewind 14 hours. Let me show you the woman Marcus Cole thought he had destroyed forever. That morning, Sophia had stood in their walk-in closet, running her fingers over fabrics that cost more than her entire first year of architecture school. Silk from Milan, cashmere from Scotland, a rainbow of designer labels that still felt like playing dress-up in someone else's life. She chose the gold dress, simple, elegant, nothing too flashy. Old habits from harder days die slowly. "You're doing it again." Dante's voice came from the doorway. He was already dressed in his 3-piece suit, the kind that made him look like a beautiful and dangerous animal wearing expensive fabric. His dark hair was styled back, showing the scar along his left temple, a quiet reminder that he had earned his power through blood, not business meetings. Doing what? She turned, fixing her pearl earrings, ones that had belonged to his grandmother, choosing the least expensive thing in your closet. He crossed the room toward her, his presence filling the space like smoke, overwhelming and necessary all at once. His hands found her waist, pulling her back gently against his chest. You are married to a man who owns half of New York's underground world. Stop shopping in your own closet like you're still counting coins." She laughed, the sound lighter than she actually felt. "I like simple things. I like spoiling you." He pressed his lips to the curve of her neck, the gesture both possessive and tender at the same time. "Humor me. You humor me by loving me exactly as I am." His expression softened in that way it only ever did for her, the dangerous man becoming just a man. "Always, my love, always." But then something shifted, his jaw tightened, his eyes moved to the invitation sitting on her vanity. "The midnight Christmas ball, the award ceremony for the coal tower. You don't have to go," he said quietly. "I do." She turned in his arms and held his face in her hands. "I need to see it. I need to see him get his award for my building and know that I survived him, that I won." "You didn't just survive him, Sophia. You built an empire while he was stealing credit for one single building." His thumb traced her cheekbones softly. "But if you're walking into that ballroom, you're taking protection with you. That is not up for discussion. Dante, I don't need bodyguards to watch a man accept an award. He put you in a homeless shelter." The words came out flat, final. "He is the reason you lost our first child. You don't go anywhere near Marcus Cole without my men surrounding you. This is not a request." There it was. The powerful man who had built his empire on absolute control and fierce love. She could have argued, but she recognized the fear hiding underneath his command. Dante Leone, the man who had made senators cry and made CEO disappear, was terrified of losing her. "Okay," she whispered, "Ray and Lucas can come." The tension left his shoulders. He checked his watch. "I have a meeting. I'll be done by 7. We have dinner reservations at 8. "Where?" That dangerous smile returned, the one that still made her breath catch even after everything. "It's a surprise. Wear this dress. I haven't been able to stop thinking about taking it off you since you bought it." Heat rushed to her face even as she smiled. "You are impossible. Only for you, always only for you." He kissed her then, deep and claiming, the kind of kiss that erased everything outside their bedroom walls. When he finally pulled away, both of them were breathing hard. "Be safe," he murmured against her lips. "Always." He left her there, surrounded by luxury she still could not quite believe was truly hers, getting ready for a night that was about to change everything. If only she had known what was waiting for her 8 hours later. If only she had known that this time, when she hit the ground, she was not getting back up alone. This time she was getting up with an army behind her. Marcus's laugh came out strangled, like his voice was already trying to escape from the danger his brain hadn't registered yet. He looked at Dante, really looked at him, and Sophia watched the exact moment recognition flickered across his face. Not recognition of the man specifically, recognition of the power around him, the kind of power that doesn't need to introduce itself because its reputation always arrives first. "Wife," Marcus's voice cracked on the word. He gestured toward Sophia with shaking fingers, trying desperately to hold onto control he had already lost completely. "This is Sophia, Sophia Williams. She's nobody, a squatter, a failed intern who couldn't make it in the real world." Dante didn't respond. He simply stood there, 6 feet 3 inches of controlled violence in a perfectly tailored suit. His hand still wrapped loosely around Sophia's phone, his name glowing on the screen like a verdict. Sophia felt his eyes on her before she even looked up. Those dark eyes that had seen her at her absolute worst, crying in the bathtub at 3 in the morning, screaming through nightmares about freezing shelters, and had never once looked away. They swept over her now, taking in every detail, the torn shoulder of her gown, the blood on her arm, the way she was holding her left side where Marcus's shoe had connected. Something shifted in his expression. Something very quiet and very deadly. "Get up, my love," he said softly, extending his hand. She took it. His palm was warm and steady as solid ground, and he pulled her to her feet with such gentleness that her throat went tight. Then his thumb brushed her cheekbone, such a small gesture, but so completely, openly his. Several people around them actually gasped. Marcus was still talking, his voice climbing higher with desperation. I don't know what she told you, but she's lying. She has always been a liar. She probably played you, didn't she? That's what she does. She finds men and she manipulates them. Desperate. Dante's voice cut through Marcus's rambling like a knife going through silk. He still hadn't raised his voice. Somehow, that made it so much worse. You think I look desperate to you. Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it. His eyes moved around the ballroom, searching for allies, for real security, for anyone who could pull him out of this situation he had walked right into. That's when he saw it. The men in black suits weren't hotel security. They wore the same subtle, expensive clothing as Dante himself. But underneath, the designer fabric was muscle built from real violence, not from a gym, and every single one of them was staring at Marcus like he was already a dead man. Security. Marcus's voice shot up. He snapped his fingers at the nearest man in black. Security. I need you to remove this woman right now. She's trespassing. The man didn't move. Didn't even blink. Marcus tried again, turning to another guard. I said remove her. Are you deaf? I'm Marcus Cole. I'm receiving an award tonight. This is my event, actually. Dante said, and now there was something almost pleasant in his tone, which made Sophia's pulse quicken, because she knew exactly what that pleasantness meant. It's my event. I didn't just buy a ticket, Marcus. I bought the venue for the evening, the hotel, the security firm running these guards, the catering company serving your champagne, all mine. You have been standing in my cage for the last 45 minutes and you didn't even know it. The color drained from Marcus's face so fast Sophia thought he might actually faint. The security team you have been ordering around. Dante continued, his hand settling on the small of Sophia's back. Those are my men. You don't give them orders. You don't give anyone here orders. You're lying. Marcus said, but his voice had absolutely nothing left in it. Dante smiled. It was the smile Sophia had seen him use in business meetings that ended with someone signing away their entire life's work. Ray, one of the men, stepped forward, older than the others, silver threading through his dark hair, a long scar running down his jaw. He bowed his head slightly toward Sophia. Donna. Sophia's breath caught. Donna, the title Dante's family had given her when they married. Shadow Donna. They called her in whispers, because she didn't command with violence or threats, but with strategy and intelligence, the kind that quietly dismantled empires from the inside out. Show Mr. Cole the guest list, Dante said. Ray pulled out a tablet and turned it toward Marcus, and Sophia watched her ex's face cycle slowly through confusion, then disbelief, then a creeping horror that spread through him like ice water. You see that name? Dante's voice was almost gentle now, the kind of gentle that comes right before something very bad happens. The angel investor, the one who has been quietly funding your failing company for the past 6 months, the one who promised to meet you here tonight to discuss saving your business from bankruptcy. Marcus's hand was shaking as he scrolled through the document. This says the investor is Leon Holdings. That's me. Dante finished. I've been buying your debt, Marcus, your contracts, your reputation, piece by piece quietly for months. And tonight I was going to hand your entire company to my wife as an early birthday present. His fingers tightened gently against Sophia's spine. But then you put your hands on her. The ballroom had gone so completely silent that Sophia could hear the crystal chandeliers trembling in the air above them. Every single eye in the room was fixed on this moment. Wealthy people in expensive clothes, every one of them frozen in place. Marcus's girlfriend, Sophia couldn't remember her name, some heiress with more money than common sense, grabbed his arm. Marcus, what is he talking about? What debt? He shook her off roughly. Shut up, Izzy. Don't speak to her like that. Sophia's voice surprised her with how steady it was. She stepped forward out of Dante's protective hold, and Marcus actually flinched. You don't get to treat another woman the way you treated me. Not while I'm standing right here, Sophia. Marcus's voice broke on her name. Sophia, please. I didn't know. I didn't recognize you. You look so different, I thought. You thought I was still the desperate girl you threw away. She felt Dante's presence behind her, a dark, steady shadow of everything she had become. But she did not need him to fight this part of the battle. This part was hers. You thought I was still broken, still crying, still begging for scraps from your table. I made a mistake, Marcus said quickly, his eyes bouncing between Sophia and Dante. I was young, we were both young, but we can fix this. We can still fix this. Sophia's laugh was sharp enough to cut. You stole my designs. You stole my savings. You left me pregnant and homeless in January in New York City, in the coldest winter in 30 years. And you think an apology can fix that? I didn't know you were pregnant. I told you. The words ripped out of her before she could stop them. I told you the morning you left. Her voice cracked and she hated herself for it. Hated that he could still do that to her after 5 years of therapy, 5 years of rebuilding herself from the ground up, 5 years of learning how to breathe again. You said you didn't care, that it wasn't your problem, silence, the kind of silence that comes right before violence. Then Dante's hand was on her waist again, pulling her gently back against his chest, his other hand coming up to cup her face. Breathe, my love, he murmured in Italian, his lips against her temple. Breathe, I have him, she breathed. Pulled in the sandalwood and strength of him. Let it steady her. When she opened her eyes, Marcus was staring at them with something raw and ugly on his face, staring at the way Dante held her, at the diamond on her finger now visible where she had peeled off her. Torn glove, 20 carats, flawless, set in platinum, engraved with words in Italian that translated to until death and beyond. That's a Leone family ring, someone in the crowd whispered. She's actually his wife, another voice confirmed. Marcus swallowed hard. The baby. Was there really? There was really a baby. Sophia's voice was completely still now. Your son, he died because I didn't have money for food, because I was sleeping in a shelter where the heat didn't work, because the stress of losing everything, my career, my home, my future, caused my body to give up the pregnancy. She paused. Let that sink all the way in. His name was going to be Thomas, after my father. Marcus's knees buckled. He caught himself on the nearest table, champagne glasses toppling, crystal shattering against the marble floor. Izzy made a small, horrified sound. You never told me you had a child. I didn't, Marcus said quickly. It wasn't viable. She's exaggerating. I have the medical records. Sophia interrupted. From the hospital, from the night I miscarried. Date stamped 2 weeks after you cleaned out our joint bank account. And they have your name listed as the father, because I was still foolish enough to think you might come back. Dante's arms tightened around her. She could feel the tension coiling through his entire body, the barely leashed violence, the wall of control he was holding up entirely for her sake. He was letting her speak, letting her have this moment, but his patience had a limit, and Marcus was getting very close to the edge of it. Donna, Ray said quietly from beside her, would you like us to remove Mr. Cole? She almost said yes. Almost let them drag Marcus out of the ballroom and end this right here. But then she thought about the blueprints, about the building that carried Marcus's name, but held her soul in every single line, every calculation, every clever solution to problems everyone else had said were impossible. About the award he was supposed to accept tonight for work he had never done. No, she said clearly. I want everyone in this room to know exactly who Marcus Cole is before we remove him. Dante's chest rumbled with approval against her back. Ray, the presentation. Ray nodded and moved toward the stage, toward the massive projector screen that had been set up to display Marcus's achievements, his award speech, his rise to architectural greatness. Marcus watched him go, confusion and fear fighting across his face. What are you doing? What presentation? Sophia smiled. It was not a nice smile. You wanted the spotlight tonight, Marcus. Let's make sure you really get it. The lights dimmed. The crowd murmured and then went quiet as the projector screen flickered to life. Marcus stood in the center of the ballroom, his tuxedo already starting to wrinkle, his face pale, looking like a man watching his own execution in slow motion. The first image that appeared was not the glossy professional photo of the Cole Tower that was supposed to open his award presentation. It was a blueprint, hand drawn detailed, dated 5 years earlier. And in the bottom right corner, in handwriting that Sophia had worked very hard to make confident again after Marcus had destroyed it, was a signature. Sophia Williams, lead architect. The gasp from the crowd was collective and visceral. That's, Marcus started, but his voice died as the next slide appeared. Then another, each one a piece of the Cole Tower's design, each one dated before Marcus had even started his firm. Each one signed by Sophia, the Cole Tower. Sophia said, her voice carrying through the silent ballroom with the kind of authority she had earned the hard way, in boardrooms and back rooms, in the places where real deals got made and real enemies got buried, was conceived as my thesis project at Columbia. It was revolutionary not because of its height, but because of its sustainable design, the energy capture system, the rainwater filtration, the structural innovations that allow it to survive category 5 hurricane winds without swaying more than 3 inches at the very top. She stepped away from Dante, moved to the center of the floor. Her gold dress caught the light from the projector and turned her into something golden and dangerous. I spent 3 years developing those systems. She continued. 3 years of modeling and testing and failing and rebuilding. And when I finally had something real, something that could genuinely change how we think about tall building sustainability, I made the mistake of sharing it with my partner, my fiancé, the man I trusted with everything. Marcus tried to speak. Sophia, that's not your twisting. The man who stole my designs the day before our lease ended. Her voice did not rise. It did not need to. Who copied every file from my laptop while I was sleeping. Who used my own passwords to access my cloud storage, my email, my entire professional life. And who then reported me to the university. For plagiarism, the crowd's energy shifted. Sophia could feel it, the way she had learned to read rooms during her time as Dante's wife, as the quiet strategist behind his empire. They were turning against Marcus, slowly and steadily, like a tide coming in. That is a lie. Marcus's voice cracked with desperation. She was my intern, the designs were collaborative, I was the licensed architect. She was just a student helping with drafting. Ray clicked to the next slide. It was an email chain from Marcus's own account to a patent attorney, dated 4 days before he had left Sophia. The subject line read, Rush filing, building design patent, sole authorship. The attached document was Sophia's thesis, word for word, with her name deleted and his inserted. Izzy's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God, Marcus, I can explain. The foundation is cracking. Sophia's voice cut through his excuses like a clean blade. She moved closer to him, her heels clicking against the marble, and Marcus actually stepped backward. Floor 40, 7, western corner. The structural support you installed using my designs. Did you even read the specifications? Or did you just hand them to your engineers and hope for the best? His silence was all the answer anyone needed. I designed that building to be built in a very specific order. Sophia continued, circling him now with the calm patience of someone who had been waiting for this moment for 5 years. The support columns had to set for 48 hours before the next level could be poured. The steel reinforcement had to be treated with a specific polymer to prevent thermal expansion. Every single detail mattered, Marcus, and you rushed it because you didn't understand the why behind the how. The building is fine, he protested weakly. It passed inspection. It's been standing for 3 years without catastrophic failure. Sophia interrupted. But the microfractures in the foundation are already spreading. In 5 years, maybe 10, that tower is going to need hundreds of millions of dollars in structural repairs. And when the city investigates why, they are going to find your shortcuts, your code violations, your complete disregard for the safety systems I spent 3 years getting exactly right. She stopped directly in front of him, close enough to see the gold fleck in her own brown eyes reflected in his terrified ones. The eyes he had once claimed to love. You stole the shell, Marcus, but you couldn't steal the soul, and that's why your masterpiece is dying from the inside out. Marcus looked around wildly, searching desperately for support. His father sat in the front row, stone-faced. Izzy had moved away from him, her expression openly disgusted. The event coordinator was pale, phone already in hand, probably calling the hotel's legal team. "These are doctored," Marcus said, pointing at the screen with a shaking hand. "The dates are fake. She's doing this because I left her, because she can't handle rejection. This is revenge, pure and simple, revenge." Dante's voice rolled through the ballroom like distant thunder. He had been quiet, letting Sophia have every second of her moment. But there were limits to his patience, and Marcus had finally found them. He moved to stand beside her, his hand claiming her waist with quiet, absolute finality. "You think my wife needs revenge?" He gestured to the room around them, to the chandeliers dripping crystal above, to the entire city's wealthy and powerful crowd gathered in their expensive clothes. "Look around you, Marcus. She is married to me. She has more money than you will see in 10 lifetimes. She has designed buildings in 3 countries, won awards under her own name, built a reputation that makes other firms compete just to get her signature on their projects. What exactly does she need from you? Then why is she doing this?" Marcus's voice had gone small and desperate now, almost childlike. "Why drag me through all of this if she's already so successful?" Sophia felt Dante's hand tighten on her waist. A quiet question. She could stop this now, walk away, let Marcus disappear into obscurity without the public humiliation. That's what the old Sophia would have done. The girl who apologized for breathing, who made herself smaller to avoid conflict. But that girl had died in a homeless shelter 5 years ago. The woman who rose from those ashes didn't apologize for taking up space. "Because you need to understand something," she said quietly. "When you left me, you didn't just break my heart. You destroyed my career, my reputation. The university blacklisted me because of your plagiarism report. No firm would hire me because you spread the word that I was unstable, vindictive, a lawsuit waiting to happen. I spent 2 years working cash jobs, waitressing, cleaning houses, just trying to survive." Her voice didn't shake. That was important. She had promised herself it wouldn't shake. "And in those 2 years, I thought about you every single day, about what you took from me, about the baby I lost because of you, about the future I had planned that you burned to ash." She paused. Let the words breathe in the silence. "So yes, Marcus, this is revenge, but not for breaking my heart, for stealing my life's work, and then trying to convince the entire world that I was the thief." The projector screen changed again. This time it showed a recording, grainy security camera footage, but the audio was crystal clear. Marcus's voice, in what looked like a bar, talking to someone off screen. "The tower, please. My ex-girlfriend did most of the actual design work. Brilliant girl, terrible instincts. She actually thought I was going to marry her and give her the credit. Can you imagine sharing $1 billion project with some nobody from Brooklyn?" The other voice, male, incredulous. "You stole her work," Marcus, laughing. "Stole, I leveraged an asset. She wasn't going to do anything with it anyway. No license, no connections, no business sense. I took raw talent and turned it into something real. That's not theft. That's called entrepreneurship." The recording ended. The ballroom exploded. Marcus's face had gone from pale to gray, the color of ash. "That was private. That was, you can't record people without their knowledge. It's illegal. It's perfectly legal in this state," Ray said calmly, "when one party in the conversation agrees to the recording. And the gentleman you were speaking with has worked for Mr. Leone for the past 3 years. Marcus turned on him, betrayal and rage twisting his face. "You set me up. I prepared the ground," Dante corrected, his voice almost conversational, which somehow made it infinitely more terrifying. 5 years ago, your choices destroyed my wife's life. Did you really think I wouldn't notice, that I wouldn't do anything about it? I didn't know she was your wife 5 years ago. No?" Dante agreed. 5 years ago, she was homeless. She was pregnant with a baby she was going to lose because you had left her with absolutely nothing. 5 years ago, she was alone in a city that had turned its back on her because you had poisoned every professional door she might have knocked on. His hand moved from Sophia's waist to her shoulder, gentle and steady. 3 years ago, She walked into my office building looking for work as a cleaning person. She was brilliant and broken and barely surviving, and I saw exactly what you had tried to destroy. Sophia felt her throat tighten. She knew this story. She had lived every second of it. But hearing Dante tell it, hearing the emotion he usually kept locked away behind that composed exterior, made her eyes burn. I hired her as a junior architect, Dante continued. Gave her projects you would have sold your soul to work on, watched her rebuild herself into the woman she was always meant to be, and when she finally told me what you had done, when she finally trusted me enough to show me the scars you had left, his voice dropped soft and deadly. I started building your cage. Marcus's legs gave out. He hit the marble floor hard on his knees. Please, he whispered, please, I'll give it back. The building, the patent, all of it. Just please. You can't give back what you never truly owned. Sophia crouched down to his eye level. Her gold dress pooled around her like molten metal. She looked every inch the queen she had become. But you're right about one thing. You are going to give me something tonight, she nodded to Ray. He handed her a folder, leather and expensive, stamped with the Leone family mark. This is the patent for the Cole Tower Sustainable Systems. As of 3 hours ago, it has been transferred to my name. The university reviewed all the evidence and reversed your claim. They have also reinstated me with full academic honors and issued a formal apology. Marcus stared at the documents like they were a death sentence. This, Sophia continued, pulling out another page, is the public statement you are going to issue tonight. It states that the design was collaborative, but that all the innovative systems were solely my work. It recommends that all future citations credit Sophia Leone, formerly Williams, as the primary architect. I'll be ruined, he whispered. Yes, she agreed simply. You will, but you'll be alive, which is more than you deserve. She stood, towering over him in her heels and her heart. One power. Sign it. And if I don't, the temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Dante moved fast and fluid, his hand suddenly wrapped loosely around Marcus's throat, not choking, just holding, a reminder of how fragile a human body is when faced with someone who built his whole life on understanding that fragility. Then we moved to Plan B, Dante said pleasantly, which involves the construction site of your tower's extension, wet concrete, and a very long conversation about what happens to men who hurt my wife. Your choice, Marcus, dignity or consequences. I'm genuinely comfortable with either. Marcus's hand shook as he reached for the pen Ray held out. He signed his name 3 times, each signature more shaky and unreadable than the last. Each one another piece of his reputation, crumbling to dust. When he finished, Sophia took the papers back. She did not say thank you, did not gloat. She just stood there, victorious and exhausted and finally free. One more thing, she said, her voice carrying clearly to every corner of that ballroom. We were together, you're right about that. I loved you with everything I had, and you used that love as a tool. You twisted it, exploited it, broke it apart. So let me be very clear about something. She leaned down, close to his ear, her words just for him. I don't love you anymore. I don't even hate you. You are nothing to me now, and that is the real punishment. Knowing that the woman you threw away became someone so far beyond your reach that you're not even an afterthought anymore. She straightened, took Dante's offered hand, and started to walk away. Marcus's voice stopped her. You're just bitter because I left. She turned back one last time. No, Marcus, I'm grateful, because if you hadn't destroyed me, I never would have become this. I never would have understood that I didn't need you, that I was always enough on my own. She smiled, and it was completely genuine, warm and radiant. So thank you for being exactly who you are, for showing me exactly who I needed to become. Then she let Dante lead her through the crowd, through the whispers and stares, through the ballroom doors, and into the hotel corridor where the air finally felt clean again. The moment they were alone, she started shaking. All the adrenaline, all the carefully controlled anger flooding out of her in waves she couldn't stop. Dante caught her before her knees gave out, pulled her against his chest, let her breathe through it. I've got you, he murmured in Italian, his lips against her hair. My love, I've got you. You were magnificent. You destroyed him with nothing but the truth. He didn't recognize me. She whispered against his shirt, his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. 5 years. I carried his child, I loved him, and he looked right through me. Because you are beyond his ability to understand now. Dante's hand cupped the back of her head, protective and possessive and tender. He saw you as less than, as something to use and then throw away. He can't recognize greatness because he has never possessed it himself. She laughed, watery and broken. Is this what winning feels like? You tell me, my love. She pulled back enough to look at him, at the man who had found her broken and helped her forge herself into something unbreakable, who had given her the resources to fight back, but never fought her battles for her, who looked at her like she was the most dangerous thing in any room, and loved her even more for it. It feels, she said slowly, like I can finally breathe. His smile was fierce and proud. Then breathe and know that no one will ever make you feel small again. But even as he said it, even as she believed every word, she knew this wasn't finished. Marcus wouldn't disappear quietly. Men like him never did. They clawed and fought and tried to drag everything down with them. She just didn't know yet how far he'd be willing to fall. They made it 3 steps back toward the ballroom before Marcus's voice sliced through the corridor like breaking glass. You want to talk about the past, Sophia? Let's really talk about it. She froze, felt Dante's arm tighten like steel around her waist. Let him go, she said quietly. Let him dig his own grave. Dante's jaw was tight, but he nodded. They turned back. Marcus stood in the ballroom doorway, his father and Izzy behind him, half the gala's guests spilling out into the corridor, a perfect audience for his own destruction. You want everyone to think I'm the monster. Marcus's face was flushed, his carefully styled hair falling across his forehead, his designer tuxedo wrinkled and stained. He looked manic, like a man who had nothing left to lose. Let's tell them the whole story. Let's tell them how you tried to trap me with a pregnancy. The corridor went completely silent. Sophia felt Dante's entire body go rigid behind her, the kind of stillness that comes right before extreme violence. She put her hand over his, held him in place, let him talk. I was 27 years old. Marcus continued, his voice rising with each word. Building a career. I was clear from the beginning that I didn't want children. But you, he pointed at her, finger shaking. You stopped taking your birth control without telling me. You deliberately got pregnant thinking it would force me to marry you. Izzy made a small shocked sound. Several people in the crowd murmured quietly. The energy shifted. Uncertainty creeping in. Had Sophia manipulated him? Was this 2 different stories about the same truth? Sophia smiled. It was a terrible smile, the kind that made Ray quietly cross himself in the back of the crowd. You're right, she said clearly. I did stop taking my birth control. Marcus's face lit up with relief. See, she admits it. She trapped me. I stopped taking it. Sophia continued, her voice unhurried and completely steady. Because we had a conversation about starting a family together. 3 conversations, actually. I have the text messages. She looked at Ray. He was already pulling them up on the tablet. You told me you wanted to be a father, that we should start trying after the new year, that you had already looked into preschools in Manhattan. The texts appeared on the screen. Date stamped. Screenshot after screenshot of Marcus talking enthusiastically about fatherhood, about legacy, about raising children to carry on his architectural vision. Marcus's face went from hopeful to ash white. Those are out of context. They are dated, Sophia said. December 10th through the 28th. We started trying for a baby on December 30th. I found out I was pregnant on January 15th. You left me on January 17th. She paused. 2 days after I told you, I left because you were unstable. His voice pitched higher, cracking. You were obsessed with the baby. You wanted to get married immediately. You were talking about names, about nurseries, about the future we had planned together. Her voice was soft and devastating. The one you encouraged me to dream about, the apartment we were supposed to move into, the life you promised me. I changed my mind. Marcus almost exploded with it. Is that a crime? I realized I wasn't ready. I realized I had made a mistake. People are allowed to change their minds, Sophia. They are, she agreed. But changing your mind doesn't give you the right to steal someone's life savings on your way out. It doesn't give you the right to report them for plagiarism and destroy their career. It doesn't give you the right to spread lies that they're mentally unstable to make sure nobody will ever hire them. She took one step toward him. And it definitely doesn't give you the right to disappear without a single word when you absolutely know, that they are pregnant and completely alone. I didn't know how bad it was for you. You knew. Her voice cracked, the first real break in her composure. You knew because I called you 47 times. I left voicemails begging you to just talk to me. I sent emails, I sent messages. I showed up at your new apartment, the one you had rented without telling me, and you called the police on me. The crowd was absolutely silent now. Even the socialites who had been whispering all evening had gone completely still. I was 6 weeks pregnant, Sophia continued, her voice steady again, made of iron and ice. Sleeping in a shelter because I couldn't afford first and last month's rent anywhere. Working day shifts at a diner because no architecture firm would touch me after what you did to my reputation. And I was still trying to reach you, still hoping you would come back, still believing that the man I loved wouldn't actually let me suffer like that. So what? Marcus's desperation was curdling into cruelty. The last defense of a man who had nothing left to lose. You had a hard few weeks. Welcome to being an adult. Not everyone gets a fairy tale ending. Some of us have to make hard choices. Hard choices. Sophia's laugh was hollow. Is that what you call it? She looked at Dante. He was vibrating with barely contained rage, his jaw so tight she could see the muscle jumping along the side of his face. She touched his face, brought his forehead gently down to hers. I need to tell them, she whispered in Italian. I need to say it out loud. My love, you don't have to. I do, I need to. She kissed him gently, drew strength from the contact, then turned back to face Marcus. She was completely steady, resolved. You want to talk about consequences, about hard choices? Let me tell you about February 3rd, 8 weeks and 2 days pregnant. I woke up in the shelter at 4 in the morning because something felt wrong. Izzy's hand flew to her mouth. Several women in the crowd had tears running down their faces. I didn't have money for a cab, Sophia continued, her voice eerily calm, so I walked to the hospital, 14 blocks in a snowstorm. By the time I got there, I was hemorrhaging. The emergency doctor asked who they should call, who my emergency contact was, and I gave them your number, Marcus. Even after everything you had done, even then, I gave them your number. Marcus's face had gone completely gray. Sophia, you didn't answer. Her voice never wavered. They called you 6 times, left messages, told you I was in the hospital, that there was a complication, that they needed someone to make medical decisions because I was barely conscious. She paused, let him see it, let the whole room see it. You didn't come, you didn't call back. You let me go through that completely alone. I didn't know it was that serious, the voicemail said. I was hemorrhaging. It said I might die, Marcus. Her composure finally cracked. The raw pain bleeding through 5 years of walls and work and healing. And you still didn't come. The crowd's sympathy had fully and completely shifted now. Sophia could feel it. The collective horror directed at the man standing in the doorway. But she didn't need their sympathy. She just needed him to hear it, to finally understand what he had done. I lost the baby that night, she said quietly. Alone in a hospital room, surrounded by strangers, grieving a future that would never exist. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, was that I still made excuses for you. I told myself you didn't know that you would have come if you had really understood. That somewhere, the man I loved still existed. She was crying now. Silent tears moving down her face, but her voice remained completely steady. Dante moved to her side, his arm around her waist, letting her lean on him without taking over her moment. It took me 2 years to finally understand the truth, Sophia continued. You did know. You knew exactly how bad it was. You just didn't care, and that is something I cannot forgive. Marcus tried to speak, but his father's voice cut him off. Is this true? Smith Cole Sr. stepped forward, his face carved from stone. You let a woman miscarry alone because you were too much of a coward to answer your phone. Dad, it wasn't like, was she in the hospital or not? Marcus's silence was answer enough. Smith looked at his son like he was seeing him clearly for the very first time in his life, seeing past the polished surface to the rot underneath. You disgust me. Dad, don't. The old man's voice was flat and final. I have defended you for years, made excuses, blamed your failures on youth, on ambition, on the pressure I put on you to succeed. But this, he gestured toward Sophia. This is who you really are, a coward and a thief. He turned to Dante. I assume you have documentation of my son's business wrongdoings. Dante's smile was sharp. Extensive documentation, including proof that he has been taking money from the family trust to cover his firm's losses. Smith didn't even flinch. How much? $3 million, give or take. The old man nodded slowly. I'll wire the money to an account of your choosing by Monday. Consider it repayment for what he stole from Mrs. Leone. He looked at his son one final time. You're on your own, Marcus. I won't clean up this mess. Not this time. You're cutting me off, over her. No, Smith said coldly. Over who you are. This woman is just the evidence. He walked away, didn't look back once, and Sophia watched something fundamental snap behind Marcus's eyes. This is your fault, Marcus screamed at her, every bit of pretense gone now. You did this. You destroyed my life. No, Dante said quietly, and something in his voice made absolutely everyone in that corridor go still. You destroyed your own life, Marcus. My wife simply held up a mirror. He moved then, faster than Sophia had ever seen him move outside of actual combat. 1 second he was beside her. The next his hand was around Marcus's throat, lifting him off the ground with quiet, terrifying ease. You let her starve, Dante said, in the same tone he might use to comment on the weather. You let her bleed alone in a hospital. You killed my wife's child through your cruelty and your cowardice. His grip tightened. Marcus's face went red, then purple. Give me one single reason I shouldn't end this right here. Dante. Sophia's voice cut through the violence. He's not worth it. He hurt you, my love. He killed our child. He killed his own child, she corrected gently. And he is going to live with that every day for the rest of his life. But if you do this, you go to prison, and I need you here with me. It was the only argument that could have worked on him. Dante's hand loosened, dropped. Marcus collapsed to the floor, gasping, tears streaming down his face. You're lucky she has more mercy than I do, Dante said. He pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped his hand deliberately, like he had touched something contaminated. Ray, remove him. 2 of the men grabbed Marcus's arms and hauled him to his feet. He was crying openly now, all dignity completely gone. Izzy, please. But Izzy had already turned away from him. She walked toward Sophia instead, her face pale but determined. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I didn't know. If I had known, you know now, Sophia said, not unkindly. That's what matters, Izzy nodded. Then, to the shock of everyone watching, she pulled out her phone. I recorded something earlier tonight in the back room before the event. I was going to delete it, but she offered the phone to Sophia. I think you should hear it. Sophia took the phone, pressed play. Marcus's voice from barely an hour ago filled the corridor. Doesn't matter what the prenup says. Once we're married, I'll find a way around it. Her father isn't going to let his precious daughter divorce a Cole. We'll bleed them dry. Another voice, male, laughing. You're a cold one, Marcus. Marcus again. I learned from the best. Sophia taught me that people are easy to control if you understand what they're afraid of. Love, fear, guilt. They're all just tools. Izzy's the same, just a different kind. But still useful to me. The recording ended. Izzy was crying now, quiet tears she didn't bother to wipe away. I was going to marry him. She whispered. I actually believed he loved me. He doesn't love anyone, Sophia said softly. Not even himself. That's why he destroys people, because he's already destroyed on the inside. Izzy looked at Marcus, still held between Dante's men, and something hardened in her expression like stone setting. I'm pressing charges for fraud. The engagement ring, the gifts, the money he convinced me to invest in his company. All of it was under false pretenses. My lawyers will be in contact. Marcus made a broken sound. You can't, I can. Izzy said coldly, and I will. Welcome to consequences, Marcus. I hope they choke you. She walked away with her head held high and her future reclaimed. Sophia looked at the man who had once held her entire world in his hands. He was nothing now. Less than nothing. A story people would tell as a warning. Wearing an expensive, ruined suit. Take him to the construction site, she told Ray. I think it's time Mr. Cole contributed something lasting to the tower he claims to have designed. The construction site at midnight was a completely different world from the glittering ballroom they had just left. Harsh work lights cut through the darkness. The air smelled of wet concrete, metal, and cold city rain. Marcus stumbled as Ray's men pushed him forward, his polished shoes slipping on mud and gravel. His tuxedo was ruined. Torn, stained, the bow tie hanging loose around his neck like something that had given up. He looked up at the tower he had claimed to build, and for the first time seemed to truly see it. Not as a monument to his genius, as stolen goods, evidence of his crime. Please, he whispered as Dante's car pulled up behind them. Please, I'll do anything. I'll sign whatever you want. I'll disappear. I'll quiet, Ray said mildly. Or I'll make you quiet, your choice. Dante stepped out of the car, his suit jacket gone, his white shirt rolled up at the sleeves. He looked like violence made into something beautiful. Sophia emerged from the passenger side, her gold dress covered by one of Dante's long coats. Her heels traded for construction boots that one of the men had produced from somewhere. She looked at the tower, at the building that should have been her masterpiece, her legacy, her gift to the city she loved. It's taller than I expected. 70, 3 floors, Dante said, every single one built with your stolen designs. Marcus made a small, desperate sound. Sophia, please, you got what you wanted. Everyone knows the truth. My father cut me off, Izzy's leaving. The entire architecture world will never work with me again. What more do you want? I want you to understand what you actually took from me. I get it. I stole your work. I destroyed your career. I'm sorry. No, she said softly. You don't get it at all. You don't understand the nights I spent in that shelter, feeling my baby dying inside me, knowing I couldn't stop it because I didn't have the resources to save him. You don't understand what it means to lose everything, your career, your home, your child, your future, and have to rebuild from less than nothing. She moved closer until she could see her own reflection in his terrified eyes. You took my son, Marcus, and you didn't even care enough to ask his name. Thomas, he whispered. You said his name was going to be Thomas, after your father, who died when I was 12. Her voice cracked. Who told me I could be anything I wanted if I worked hard enough and never gave up. I was going to make him proud. I was going to build something beautiful and name it after him and show the world that his daughter was exactly what he always believed she could be. Tears moved down her face now. 5 years of grief and rage and love finally released. And you stole that from me. You stole my father's legacy. You stole my son's chance at life. You stole my entire future, and you did it for money, for prestige, for an award that wasn't even yours to accept. She was shaking now, the words tearing out of her. Dante was there, his arms around her, holding her together while she broke apart. Breathe, he murmured. My love, breathe. She did, drew in the cold night air, the smell of him, the steady certainty of everything he represented. When she could speak again, her voice was calm. I'm not going to kill you, Marcus. That would be mercy. Instead, you're going to help us build something. Marcus followed her gaze to the construction pit, to the fresh concrete foundation where the commemorative plaque would be installed. The plaque that was supposed to read Cole Tower, designed by Marcus Cole Aya. Ray's men were already there, setting up work lights, unrolling the bronze plaque from its protective covering. Except the inscription had changed. Cole Tower, designed by Sophia Leone, expanded 2025, Phoenix architecture. No, Marcus breathed. No, you can't, I can. Sophia said, This is my building, Marcus. It always was. and you are going to press that truth permanently into its foundation. I won't do it. You can't make me. Dante's gun pressed against the back of Marcus's skull, the quiet click of the safety loud in the still construction site. We absolutely can make you. Marcus's legs gave out. He fell to his knees in the mud, sobbing. Please, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You're sorry you got caught, Sophia corrected. You're sorry you're facing the consequences, but you're not sorry for what you did to me. If you had gotten away with it, if no one had ever found out, you'd still be accepting awards and giving interviews and living your perfect life built on my stolen work. She crouched down, face level with his. So no, Marcus, I don't accept your apology and I don't forgive you. Instead, you are going to pick up that trowel. She pointed to the tool Ray held, and you are going to smooth the concrete over that plaque. You are going to seal your own failure into the building you stole, and every single time you walk past this tower for the rest of your life, you are going to remember that you didn't build it. I did. Marcus looked at Dante, at the gun still pressed against his head, at the men surrounding him with expressions that promised things far worse than discomfort. Then he looked at Sophia, at the woman he had underestimated so completely and so catastrophically. I hate you, he whispered. Good, she said simply. Hate me, spend every day of the rest of your life hating me. It won't change the facts. It won't rebuild your reputation. It won't bring back your father's love or Izzy's trust or the career you've destroyed through your own arrogance. She stood, stepped back. Now get up, you have work to do. It took him 3 tries to get to his feet. Ray handed him the trowel. Marcus's hands shook so badly he could barely hold it. The concrete was still wet and workable. The plaque sat in its metal frame, waiting to be sealed into the foundation forever. Marcus looked at it, at his name, erased and replaced by Sophia's. Something in him snapped. You were nothing when I met you, he said, his voice flat. A scholarship student from across the bridge with big dreams and no real connections. I made you relevant. I introduced you to the right people. I taught you how this industry actually works. Everything you have now, you owe to me. Everything she has now, Dante said quietly. She built herself after you tried to destroy her. The only thing she owes you is contempt. Marcus laughed, bitter and hollow and completely broken. You think you've won. You think this ends with me humiliated and her standing on top. She'll never fully escape what I did to her. Every time someone looks at this building, they'll remember the whole ugly story. They'll remember she had to fight for credit on her own work. They'll wonder what else isn't true. Let them wonder, Sophia said. I have the truth. I have the patents and the blueprints and the emails. I have a husband who would burn this city to keep me safe and an empire built on real work, not theft. What do you have? Marcus, his face crumpled. Nothing. I have nothing. Then get to work. It took him 20 minutes to smooth the concrete over the plaque. 20 minutes of watching him memorialize his own defeat. His hands shaking, tears and rain mixing on his face. When he finally finished, the plaque was sealed. Permanent, unchangeable. Sophia Leone's name would be in that foundation until the building fell. Maybe longer. It's done, Marcus whispered. Not quite. Dante nodded to Ray, who produced a document. This is a full written confession. Theft of intellectual property, fraud, perjury, the false plagiarism report, embezzlement from the family trust. Sign it. And if I don't, then we move from criminal charges to something considerably more permanent. Dante's smile was absolutely terrifying. I gave my wife a choice. She chose mercy. But my patience has a hard limit, Marcus. Sign the paper, or I put you in the foundation right next to the plaque. Marcus signed. His signature was barely legible, broken like everything else about him. Good, Sophia said. Now you can go. Marcus stared at her. Go where? Wherever you want. I genuinely don't care. She turned away from him and looked up at her tower instead. You're not worth any more of my time. You're just letting me walk away after all of this. She glanced back, and her expression was almost something like pity. You've already lost everything that matters, your career, your family, your reputation, your freedom. The confession you just signed guarantees prison time for the embezzlement alone. I don't need To punish you any more, Marcus. Life will do that far more thoroughly than I ever could. He stood there, covered in mud and concrete, his life in complete ruins around him, and seemed to finally understand. This wasn't about punishment, it was about truth, about taking back what he had stolen and making absolutely sure he could never steal again. I really did love you, he said quietly, in the beginning, before everything got complicated. No, Sophia said. You loved what I could do for you. You loved my talent and my designs and my willingness to make you look brilliant. But you never loved me, because if you had, you couldn't have destroyed me so easily. She walked to Dante and let him wrap her in his arms, in his coat, in the safety he had always represented. Take me home. With pleasure, my love. They left Marcus standing in the construction site, surrounded by the tower he had built on lies, staring at the plaque that told the truth he had tried so hard to bury. Ray and his men stayed behind, making sure Marcus understood that any attempt to damage or remove the plaque would be the very last mistake he ever made. In the car, Sophia finally let herself collapse. The adrenaline that had carried her through the entire night drained away, leaving her hollow and exhausted. Dante pulled her into his lap, held her like something precious, and let her cry into his shirt. It's over, he murmured, his hand stroking her hair. My love, it's over. You won. Then why doesn't it feel like winning? Because justice isn't the same as healing. He tilted her face up and gently wiped away her tears with his thumb. Tonight was about truth. Tomorrow we start on healing. How? His smile was soft and tender, the kind that still surprised her even after 3 years of marriage. I have a plan, trust me. She did, with everything she had, always. The boardroom of Cole architecture was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows over Central Park. A table carved from a single enormous piece of dark wood. Chairs that cost more than most people made in months. Awards covering the walls, each one a testament to a genius that had never truly existed. Marcus burst through the doors at 8 in the morning, his face wrecked from a sleepless night. His suit wrinkled, coming straight from his apartment without showering or eating. All he could think about was damage control, the board meeting he had called for 9, the emergency strategy, the lawyers who might maybe be able to spin this disaster into something he could survive. He stopped dead in the doorway. Sophia sat at the head of the table, his seat, the chairman's seat. She had changed from the gold dress into a sharp black suit that made her look exactly like what she was. The woman who owned him. Her hair was styled up, diamonds in her ears, wedding ring catching the morning light. Dante stood behind her, his hand resting on her shoulder. The board members, 5 men and 2 women who had been loyal to the Cole family for decades, sat in their usual seats. But their expressions were different, wary and guilty and afraid. What is this? Marcus's voice cracked. He cleared his throat. What is this? This is my company. Actually, Ray said from the corner where he leaned against the wall like casual authority. It's not anymore. Sophia gestured to the chair across from her. Sit down, Marcus. We have a great deal to discuss. He didn't want to sit. Wanted to scream, to demand answers, to call his lawyers and his father and anyone who might still pick up his calls. But Dante's expression made very clear what would happen if he didn't comply. So Marcus sat, feeling like a child being brought to answer for something terrible. 6 months ago, Sophia began, her voice steady and professional and completely without mercy. Leon Holdings began quietly purchasing shares in Cole Architecture, through shell companies and private sales. Board, she gestured to the silent people around the table, was very cooperative in facilitating these transactions. Marcus's head whipped toward them. You sold to him. You sold my father's company. They sold their shares. Sophia corrected, as was their complete legal right. And now? She slid a document across the polished wood toward him. I own 1%, controlling interest. The paper might as well have been his death certificate. Marcus stared at the numbers, the signatures, the official stamp that made it horribly and permanently real. No, this can't be legal. There are protections and takeover rules, which your father put in place. One of the board members said, an older woman named Margaret who had known Marcus since he was small, and which can be waived by a majority board vote. We voted in an emergency session this morning. The vote was unanimous. You betrayed me. Marcus looked around the table at faces that refused to meet his eyes. All of you, my father built this company from the ground up, and you just sold it. Your father built this company on integrity, Margaret said quietly. Something you clearly don't have. When Mrs. Leon presented us with evidence of your fraud, your theft, your embezzlement, we had a choice. Protect you and go down with you, or salvage what we could of this firm's actual reputation. Evidence you provided. Marcus spat at Dante. Evidence you manufactured. Evidence I collected. Dante corrected. There is a difference. Every single document is genuine. Every recording is authentic. You destroyed yourself, Marcus. I simply documented it happening. Sophia pulled out another folder. This one was thick and bound in red. This is your termination notice, effective immediately. You're fired. You can't fire me. I can. I just did. The board has already voted to accept it. She opened the folder. Page after page of legal documentation spread across the table. You are being terminated for cause, fraud, embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty, which means no severance, no equity payout, no continuation of any benefits. You leave with exactly what you came in with, nothing. I built this company and no. Her voice was steel. You stole from it. There is a difference. She slid another document across the table. This is a lifetime ban from the American Institute of Architects. Based on the confession you signed last night and the documented evidence of plagiarism, you will never work as a licensed architect again. Marcus's hands shook as he picked it up and read the words that ended his career. This will destroy me. Yes. Sophia agreed simply. It will. Why? The word came out completely broken. Why not just take the company? Why destroy everything? She leaned forward, her eyes hard and absolutely clear. Because you need to truly understand what you did to me 5 years ago. You didn't just leave. You systematically destroyed every single avenue I had for survival. You took my designs, my savings. My professional reputation. You left me with nothing and nowhere to go. So yes, Marcus, I am doing the same to you, and I want you to feel exactly what I felt. I'll sue, I'll fight this. With what money? Dante asked mildly. Your father cut you off. Your bank accounts are frozen pending investigation of the embezzlement. Your apartment is being repossessed because you used it as collateral to cover company losses. You have approximately $3,000 in your checking account and a credit card that's completely maxed out. Marcus's face went from pale to gray. How do you? I know everything about you, Marcus, where you bank, where you drink, the name of the woman you've been seeing behind Izzy's back, the gambling debt you owe to men who don't accept credit cards or excuses. Dante's smile was absolutely terrifying. I have spent 5 years learning everything there is to know about you, and now I am going to use that knowledge to make sure you never hurt anyone again. This is revenge. This is justice. Sophia corrected. Revenge would be putting you in the foundation of that tower. This. She gestured to the termination papers. The AA ban, the mountain of evidence, is just consequences. Finally catching up, she stood up. Dante's hand immediately found the small of her back, steady, supporting. The company is being renamed, effective immediately, Phoenix Architecture, rising from the ashes of your corruption to build something better. You're taking my family's name. Your family disowned you, remember? She nodded to Margaret. Your father signed over his shares this morning. He wants nothing to do with you or the company you poisoned. Phoenix Architecture will continue to operate, will honor every existing contract, will employ everyone in this building who wasn't part of your fraud, but you. She looked at him with something that had moved past anger all the way to pity. You're done. Marcus surged to his feet. The chair clattered backward. I won't let you. Ray moved fast. Had Marcus's arm twisted firmly behind his back before he could take 2 steps toward Sophia. Sit down, let him go, Sophia said quietly. He's not a threat. Ray released him, though he stayed close. Marcus stumbled back into his chair, tears openly streaming down his face. You were right about one thing, Sophia said. I was nothing when you met me, a scholarship student with more dreams than money, but I was also brilliant, talented, creative. Everything I needed to succeed was already inside me. All I needed was someone who believed in it. She glanced at Dante, love and genuine gratitude in her eyes. He believed in me, gave me the resources to rebuild, but the work, the designs, the vision, the success that was all mine, it always was. She picked up one final folder. This contains the deed to the coal tower and all its associated properties. As of this morning, they belong to Phoenix Architecture, which means they belong to me. Marcus made a sound like he had been hit. I am not taking your father's legacy. Sophia continued. I am reclaiming mine. The tower will be renamed Phoenix Tower. The structural systems will be updated to my original specifications, correcting the mistakes you made during construction, and the revenue from it will fund a scholarship program for architecture students from lower income backgrounds, students like I was, students who deserve a real chance to succeed without being exploited by men like you. She gathered her papers, prepared to walk out. Security will escort you from the building. You have 30 minutes to collect your personal belongings. Anything left behind will be donated to charity. Where am I supposed to go? Marcus's voice was barely above a whisper. What am I supposed to do? Sophia paused at the door, looked back at the man who had destroyed her life, and expected her to simply disappear. I honestly don't know, Marcus. But I'm sure you'll figure something out. Her smile was sharp. After all, welcome to being an adult. Not everyone gets a fairy tale ending. Sometimes you just have to face the consequences of the choices you made. She left him there, didn't look back, didn't need to. Ray's men were already moving in to escort Marcus out of the building he had thought was his. In the elevator, Sophia finally let herself breathe properly. Let the reality of what she had just done settle over her. She had taken everything from him, stripped him of power, position, purpose, made him feel exactly what she had felt 5 years ago standing in a frozen shelter with nothing. It should have felt like pure victory. Instead, it felt hollow. Second, thoughts? Dante asked quietly, reading her like he always did. No, he earned every bit of this. She searched for the words. I thought it would feel different. Bigger, like some fundamental piece of me would shift when I finally got justice. Justice is necessary, he said, pulling her close, but it's not healing. It doesn't fix what he broke. It just stops him from breaking anyone else. Then what does fix it? His smile was soft and knowing. That's what tomorrow is for, my love. Today was about closing the past. Tomorrow we start building the future. The elevator doors opened. Sunlight poured through the lobby windows, warming her face. Sophia stepped out into it, into the light, into the future she had fought so incredibly hard to claim. Behind them, security escorted Marcus through the same lobby, carrying a small cardboard box with whatever personal items remained. He looked small, broken. Nothing like the confident man who had once held her entire world in his hands. Their eyes met across the marble floor. For just a moment, Sophia saw the ghost of who they had once been, young, in love, full of dreams that had felt possible. Then the moment passed. Marcus looked away first, and Sophia walked out of her building, with her head high and her future bright and shining. 1 week later, Sophia stood in front of the Phoenix Architecture conference room, looking at the team she had built around her. 3 employees who had chosen to stay after the takeover. 3 people willing to bet their careers on her vision instead of Marcus's legacy. She had spent the entire week in meetings with clients, with the press, with the AA board, reviewing her ethics complaint against Marcus. She had given interviews and signed contracts and reviewed designs. She had barely slept, running on coffee and Dante's steady presence beside her. But this meeting was different. This was where she officially became CEO, where she laid out her vision for what Phoenix Architecture was going to become. Most of you worked under Marcus for years. She began, her voice clear and steady. You trusted him. You believed in the company he had built. And finding out that he had stolen the work that made this firm successful, I know that's a betrayal. Not just of me, but of every one of you. Heads nodded around the table. Margaret in particular looked deeply troubled, her loyalty to Marcus's father at war with her disgust at what his son had done. I'm not here to tear Marcus apart further. Sophia continued. His own choices have done that well enough. I'm here to tell you what comes next. Who Phoenix architecture is going to be under my leadership. She clicked to the first slide, a blueprint, not of a building, of a way of working. We are going to build differently, she said. Sustainably, ethically, with real attention to the communities our buildings actually affect. We're not just creating structures. We're creating environments where real people live and work and grow. That means designing with purpose, with integrity, with the understanding that every choice we make has real consequences. She clicked through slides showing her proposed projects: affordable housing with cutting-edge sustainable systems built in, a community center in a neighborhood that needed it badly, designed to also serve as an emergency shelter, a school with solar panels and rainwater collection designed right into the bones of building. These aren't the projects that win big industry awards, she admitted. They're not the flashy developments that make front-page news. But they are the projects that actually matter, the ones that change real lives. A younger architect, Michael, fresh out of school, raised his hand tentatively. What about commercial work? The office towers and corporate buildings that actually pay the bills. We'll still take those projects, Sophia said, but we'll approach them differently. Every commercial building will include sustainable features, even when it costs more upfront. We'll say no to projects that push out communities without giving anything back. And we will be completely transparent about our design process, our costs, our actual impact. No more cutting corners. No more putting profit above people. That's going to make us less competitive, Margaret said quietly. Other firms can undercut us if we're adding sustainability costs. Let them, Sophia said. I am not interested in being the cheapest. I am interested in being the best, in building projects that matter, in creating a place where architects can do their most honest work without having to compromise what they believe in. She paused. Let that settle over the room. I know that sounds idealistic. I know it's going to be hard. But I spent 5 years rebuilding my entire life from absolutely nothing because I refused to stop believing in what I stood for. I'm not going to start compromising that now. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Margaret spoke, her voice thick with feeling. Your father would be proud of you. Sophia's throat tightened. Thank you. When do we start? Michael asked, leaning forward with bright eyes. Right now. Sophia smiled. Margaret, I'm promoting you to Chief Operating Officer. Michael, you're leading the community center project. Everyone else, she handed folders around the table, has an assignment. We have 6 months to prove that Phoenix can really fly. Let's get to work. The meeting dissolved into excited conversation, plans forming, energy building, the feeling of something real beginning to take shape. Sophia watched it all and felt something unlock inside her chest. This was what she had been fighting for. Not revenge, not even justice. The chance to build something that actually meant something. Dante found her an hour later, still in the conference room, surrounded by blueprints and empty coffee cups. He didn't say a word, just pulled her into his arms and let her rest against him. How does it feel? He asked quietly, being the CEO. Terrifying, she admitted. What if I fail? What if Marcus was right and I'm not ready for any of this? Then you'll learn, you'll adapt, you'll grow into it. He tilted her face up, his eyes steady and intense. You have already survived the worst thing Marcus could do to you. Running a company is nothing compared to surviving what you survived. When did you get so wise? I married you. His smile was gentle and teasing. That was genuinely the wisest thing I have ever done. She kissed him, slow and deep, tasting coffee and the promise of all the mornings to come. When they finally broke apart, she was breathless. Take me home, she murmured. I need to not be the CEO for a few hours. With pleasure, Mrs. Leon. Their penthouse was quiet when they arrived. The city noise softened by thick windows and the kind of peaceful wealth that actually means something when you've known what it's like to have nothing at all. Dante's hand never left the small of Sophia's back as they rode the private elevator up, his thumb making small, slow circles through her blouse. She was exhausted, the deep bone-tired exhaustion that comes from confronting everything you've been carrying and finally putting it down. The adrenaline that had held her together all week was gone now, leaving only the real weight of what she had done and what it had cost. Bath first, Dante said, guiding her gently toward their bathroom. Then food. Then sleep. I'm fine. She protested weakly. You're trembling. He touched her face, soft. And you have barely eaten anything but coffee since breakfast. Please, she didn't have the energy to argue. Let him help her step out of her heels. Let him sit her on the edge of the deep marble tub while he ran the water and added oils that smelled of lavender and something darker and grounding. Steam rose slowly. The mirrors fogged over. When he reached for the clasp at her back, she caught his hand. Stay with me. Something shifted in his expression, softened into something that belonged entirely to her, always. He helped her into the water and climbed in behind her, pulling her back against his chest. The heat seeped into every muscle, loosening the tension she had been carrying for days, for years, for the entire 5 years since Marcus had taken everything from her. I'm scared, she whispered into the steam. His arms tightened. Of what? That I'm becoming like him, like Marcus. Taking what I want without caring who gets hurt, my love. Dante's voice was firm and grounding. Marcus stole from you and felt completely entitled to it. You took back what was always yours. Those are not the same thing. I destroyed his life. He destroyed his own life. You held him accountable for it. She turned in his arms, water shifting between them until she could see his face. Did you ever have doubts? About us, about what we're building together? Every single day, he admitted. His hands cradled her face, thumbs gentle on her cheekbones. I am a criminal, Sophia. I have done terrible things, hurt people, taken things that were not mine to take, and you are brilliant and beautiful, and you could have chosen someone clean, someone safe, someone who wouldn't pull you anywhere near the darkness. I don't want clean, she said fiercely. I don't want safe. I want you, the man who found me completely broken and didn't try to put me back together his way, who just gave me the tools to put myself back together. The man who frightens everyone in every room except me. The man who looks at me like I'm the most powerful thing he has ever seen and loves me even more because of it. He kissed her, slow and deep and completely devastating, tasting of heat and everything they had built together. When they finally broke apart, his forehead rested against hers, their breath mixing in the warm steam. I love you, he murmured in Italian, my phoenix. My queen. My entire world, show me, she whispered back. His eyes darkened with understanding. This wasn't just about closeness. It was about reclaiming her own body, her own worth, her right to be truly held without fear. It was about being completely seen by someone who loved every broken and rebuilt piece of her. He lifted her from the water, wrapped her in towels as soft as clouds, and carried her to their room. The city glittered beyond the floor to ceiling windows, but she had eyes only for him. For the way he looked at her like she was precious, like she was irreplaceable, like she was his. Their love was slow and quiet and intense. A conversation made entirely of touch and breath and promises that didn't need words. He treated her like she was both fragile and unbreakable, like she was the most important thing in any world he had ever known, because she was. He had told her once that he would burn the city for her. She had believed him then. She believed him still. When they finally lay still together, tangled and warm and trembling, she felt something shift deep inside her. The last broken piece of her that Marcus had left behind, the part that had kept quietly, asking whether she was truly worthy of being loved, of being treated like she mattered, finally healed. I want to tell you something, Dante said into the darkness, his voice rough. And you're going to think I've lost my mind. Tell me anyway. When I first saw you 3 years ago, you were cleaning floors in my building. Your uniform was 2 sizes too big. Your hair was up. You looked completely exhausted and lost and terrified. His arm tightened around her, and I thought, that is the woman I am going to marry. Sophia laughed, genuinely surprised. Really? You thought that? I did. You had this fire in your eyes. Even broken, even after everything, you hadn't given up. You were still fighting, still surviving. And I knew, I absolutely knew, that you were going to be extraordinary the moment someone gave you a real chance. So you gave me a chance. I gave you a job. You did the rest. The designs, the reputation, the success, all of that was you, my love, all of it. I just made sure no one could hurt you while you were rebuilding yourself. She turned to study his face in the soft light. Why? Why me? You could have had anyone, because you are the only person who has ever looked at me and seen a man instead of a monster. His hand cupped her face with reverence. Everyone else sees the empire. The criminal, the danger. You see me, just me, and you love him anyway. I love him because of who he is, she said, not despite it. She kissed him softly. You are not a monster, Dante. You are my protector, my partner. My home. He pulled her impossibly closer. They lay there in the darkness, wrapped around each other in the peace that comes from being completely and utterly known. What happens now? Sophia asked eventually. We've exposed Marcus, taken back the company, told the truth to the whole world. What comes next? Dante's smile was quietly mysterious. That's a surprise. I hate surprises. You'll love this one. He kissed her forehead. Sleep, my love. Tomorrow we start the next chapter. She wanted to argue and demand answers, but exhaustion was pulling her under like a gentle tide. She let it take her, safe in his arms, certain that whatever came next, they would face it together. 3 months later, Sophia stood on a terrace in Sicily, looking out over the Mediterranean. The water was an impossible blue, the kind of blue she had thought only existed in paintings or heavily edited photos. But it was real. All of this was real. The villa belonged to Dante's family, his mother's side, the respectable Italian relatives who looked the other way about how their American family made its money. Ancient stone and quiet modern luxury woven together perfectly. Flowers climbing the old walls. Olive trees older than the country she had left behind. They had been here for a week. A vacation, Dante had called it, though Sophia suspected he had other reasons. He had been different since they arrived, softer, more present, like he had finally allowed himself to simply be here without carrying the weight of the empire. She heard him before she saw him, his footsteps on the warm tiles. Then his arms were around her waist from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder, his warmth against her back. You're up early. He murmured against her neck, couldn't sleep. She leaned back into him. Too much going on in my head. Anything I can help with? She almost said no, almost kept her secret just a little longer, but they had built everything they had on honesty, on truth, even when truth was hard. She would not start keeping things hidden now. I'm pregnant, she said softly. His entire body went completely still, 1 heartbeat, 2, he didn't breathe. Then his hands moved to her stomach, covering it with something fierce and and completely reverent. How long? His voice was rough with feeling. 6 weeks. I found out 3 days ago. I wanted to be completely sure before I told you. He turned her in his arms, both his hands cradling her face, his eyes searching hers with an intensity that stole her breath entirely. You're absolutely sure? The doctor confirmed it. Yes. She covered his hands with hers. I'm pregnant, Dante. We are going to have a baby. The sound he made was half laugh and half something that broke open. He dropped to his knees right there on the warm terracotta tiles, his arms wrapping around her waist, his face pressed against her stomach, his whole body shaking with it. He was crying. Dante, I thought. His voice fractured. After what happened with Marcus, after what you lost, I was afraid that he had taken that from you too. Sophia's own tears started then, hot and healing. The doctor said there is no reason I can't have a healthy pregnancy. The loss was caused by stress and malnutrition, not by anything permanently wrong. He looked up at her, his face completely open, tears and joy and terror and overwhelming love all at once. We're really having a baby. We are. She sank down to her knees with him, holding his face in her hands. Are you happy? I know we didn't plan this. We never actually talked about. He kissed her, and that answered everything. I am terrified. He admitted when he finally pulled back, I'm going to be a father. Me, the man who has done terrible things, who built everything he has on violence and control. How am I supposed to raise a child? The same way you loved me, she said firmly, with everything you have. With protection and patience and that fierce loyalty. You showed me every single day for 3 years before I even let myself believe it was real. You are going to be an extraordinary father, Dante. I know it completely. His hands trembled as they gently covered her still, flat stomach. It's so small. How is something that small even possible yet? That's how babies work. She laughed, the sound light with relief and joy. They start small and they grow. I'm getting the best doctors. The best hospital. You are not giving birth anywhere that isn't, Dante. She stopped him gently. I'm healthy. The baby is healthy. We don't need the very best, we just need safe. You're getting the very best anyway. His expression was completely stubborn, both of you. I am not leaving anything to chance. She knew better than to argue with him about this. This was how he loved, with excess and obsession, and the need to control every single variable to keep people he loved from being hurt. She had learned to let him do it, to let him care for her in the way he knew how. Okay, she said, the very best. But we're staying here for now. I love it here. It's peaceful. We'll stay as long as you want. He pulled her close, gentle now in a way that felt new. Do you want to know if it's a boy or a girl? It's too early to tell. She paused, uncertain. But I've been thinking about names. If it's a boy, I'd like to name him Thomas. After my father and after the baby I lost, Dante's arms tightened around her, and if it's a girl. Elena, after your mother. His breath caught. She would have loved that. She would have been so. His voice broke apart. I wish she could meet you. Could see how happy you make me. Tell me about her, Sophia said, settling more comfortably against him, the terrace warm beneath them, the Mediterranean breeze carrying salt and flowers. What was she like? And he did. He told her stories about the woman who had raised him in Sicily before the family moved to New York, about her strength and her warmth and her fierce protection of her children, about how she had tried so hard to keep them out of the family business and eventually accepted that some things were simply in the blood. They sat there for hours, talking about family and future, and small life growing inside her, making plans, dreaming dreams that finally felt completely possible. Eventually, Dante stood and pulled her to her feet. I have something to show you. He led her through the villa to his study, a room she hadn't spent much time in, walls lined with books and family photographs, generations of Leon looking proud and serious in frames. He went straight to the desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a tablet. He turned it to face her. The screen showed surveillance footage. Marcus, looking older than 3 months, should have made anyone look, wearing a sanitation worker's uniform, emptying trash cans on a street corner in another city. He works for the city now, Dante said quietly. Sanitation. It's the only employment I approved for him. The confession he signed included an agreement that any future job would have to be cleared through my legal team. I made sure the only thing he would be approved for was manual labor. Sophia watched the man who had stolen her future struggle with a garbage can in the cold. He looked diminished, completely broken, nothing like the arrogant architect who had once looked down on everyone around him. Do you want to see more? Dante asked. I have updates every week. His apartment, his bank account, his stop. She reached out and closed the tablet. I don't need to see any more. Are you sure? I can make it worse if you, Dante. She took his face in her hands and made him look at her. I don't care about Marcus anymore. He is getting exactly what he earned, and that is enough. I don't need to watch him suffer. I just need to live my life. Build my company, raise our child. Be happy. He searched her eyes, looking carefully for doubt, for any lingering pain still hiding there. You've really let it go. I have. And she realized as she said it that it was completely true. The anger, the need to see him punished, the obsession with making sure he paid for every single thing, all of it had burned away over the past 3 months, leaving only quiet. He took 5 years of my life, Sophia said. I am not giving him a single second more. Dante's smile was fierce and proud. My phoenix, rising and leaving the past behind where it belongs. Our phoenix, she corrected, placing his hand back on her stomach, all 3 of us rising together. He kissed her then, deep and claiming, pouring everything he felt into it, when they finally broke apart. Tablet was forgotten. Marcus was forgotten. Everything except the future they were building together in this warm, old, beautiful place. Marry me, he said suddenly. She laughed. We're already married, I know, but I want to do it again. Here in Sicily. With my family, with your chosen family, with everyone who matters. I want to marry you while you're carrying our child, while you are happy, while you are whole. Not as the broken woman I found 3 years ago, but as the queen you have become. Tears pricked her eyes. That is the most romantic thing you have ever said to me. Is that a yes? Yes, she kissed him. Yes, I will marry you again. As many times as you want. They planned the ceremony for a month later, a small and intimate affair on the terrace overlooking the sea. Sophia wore white, simple and elegant, her stomach just beginning to show the smallest curve. Dante wore black, his family mark embroidered on his jacket, looking like the complicated and beautiful and dangerous man he truly was. Ray conducted the ceremony, having gotten ordained specifically for this purpose. Margaret came in from New York along with Michael and a handful of other Phoenix architecture people who had become something like family. Dante's actual family filled the remaining seats, cousins and uncles and the respectable relatives who had learned to ask no particular questions. The ceremony was in Italian and English both. Words of love and loyalty and forever. When Dante slid the new ring onto her finger, diamonds and deep blue sapphires designed specifically for this day, Sophia felt the very last piece of her old life fall completely away. She was no longer the girl Marcus had destroyed, no longer defined by trauma and survival and the endless fight to rebuild. She was Sophia Leone, wife to a dangerous man who loved her with everything he had, chief executive of a company building the future, mother-to-be of a child who would grow up knowing beyond any doubt that they were wanted and cherished and fiercely protected. She was whole. The celebration lasted deep into the night, wine and music and laughter echoing through the old villa. Sophia danced with Dante under the stars, his hand warm and protective on her stomach, their foreheads pressed together, moving slowly in their own world. I love you, she murmured in Italian, the language she had learned for him, my wolf. My protector, my home, I love you, he replied, my phoenix, my queen, my everything. And as they swayed together in the warm Mediterranean night, the breeze carrying the scent of flowers and new beginnings, Sophia finally understood what winning truly felt like. It wasn't about destroying Marcus, it wasn't about reclaiming her stolen work or building an empire or proving to the world that she had survived. It was about this moment, this man, this life she had built from ash and stubbornness and refusing to quit. It was about choosing joy over bitterness, love over anger, the future over the past. It was about being happy, finally, impossibly, completely happy. From a homeless shelter to a Sicilian terrace, from broken to unbreakable, from someone who was told she was nothing to the woman who built everything. Sophia's story proved that sometimes you have to burn all the way down to find out what you're actually made of, that the worst thing that ever happens to you can become the very foundation for the best thing you ever build, and that getting even, while it might feel necessary, is nothing compared to the real victory. The victory of simply living well. 8 months later, on a cold December morning in New York City, Sophia gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Thomas Leone, and when Dante held his son for the very first time, tears moving freely down his face, Sophia knew with absolute certainty that this family, this love, this impossible future they had built together, was worth every single moment of pain she had survived to get here. Phoenix Tower opened the following spring, a monument to what sustainable architecture could actually be and to the power of truth over lies. And somewhere across the river, Marcus Cole emptied trash cans and thought about what he had lost. But Sophie didn't think about him anymore, didn't need to. She had taken back her life, her work, her future, and she had left him behind in the ashes, right where he belonged.